Oh, baby. Look at this album I've got for you to review. Oh, you think you died, huh? You're sure of it. You dropped too much fentanyl or, I don't know, Tylenol? You mixed Tylenol with vodka. Or you mixed aspirin with fentanyl vodka and whiskey. Or beer. I don't know what you did here at the Clark the Shark Show at 1-800-449-8255. All I know as I sit here at the golden EIB Sharkraphone is I think you died. You did. But you were good in your life. And the good Lord, He gave you a pass. He sent you up to heaven. You know, I don't know if you believe in Christ or Mohammed, or if you're Jewish, or Hindu, or if you go over to India with George. I don't care what you do. You come to India with me and John and Paul. Paul's like, I'd fucking sue you if you... Let's keep it clean, Paul. 1-800-449-8255. Nobody gonna sue nobody because we're talking about Deep Purple, the book of TALESION. Baby. 1-800-449-8255, The Clark the Shark Show. And this amazing album, Book of TALESION, with Rod Evans on vocals, recorded over in England. And this is before Deep Purple went heavy. Deep Purple were good on the Book of TALESION. Of course, you know, we love Rod Evans mainly for Captain Beyond and all that killer shit he recorded with them. But before Captain Beyond, and before Iron Butterfly and Rhino and Lee Dorman, there's a band from England called Deep Purple and an amazing guitar player, Richie Blackmore, on the Clark the Shark Show at 1-800-449-8255. But I'm going to talk about this album, The Book of TALESION. It's the second Deep Purple album with John Lord on keyboards. Richie Blackmore, so amazing on guitar. I love Richie Blackmore, man. I love all the guys in this era of Deep Purple the most. You know, I love Ian Gillan, and I love Roger Glover on bass. But there's something to be said for Nick Simper and Rod Evans, and John Lord and Richie Blackmore, and the greatest drummer in the world, of course. You all know that's Bobby Caldwell or Ian Pace. Because to me, Bobby Caldwell with Captain Beyond might be the only guy better than Ian Pace on drums. I mean, those guys are like neck and neck for number one drummers in the world. And it's mainly because Ian Pace has such a fast snare. His rolls on snare are so amazing. But Bobby Caldwell can do rolls on snare in the song that are amazing at 1-800-449-8255, The Clark the Shark Show. You know, with Captain Beyond on that album, recorded in 1971, Bobby Caldwell from Johnny Winter Group, he's just amazing on drums. And I can tell he's really influenced by Ian Pace. You know, Keith Moon, if he didn't touch all the alcohol and drugs, he would have been like an Ian Pace or Bobby Caldwell. And as it is, Keith Moon is like, you know, he's like Ian Pace and Bobby Caldwell, but he's just too drunk all the time. You know, but I always say, if Keith Moon would have worked out in the gym, if Keith Moon would have took vitamins and, you know, the whole bit, you know, running around the track, he would have been Ian Pace. He would have been Bobby Caldwell. But then he wouldn't be the madman Keith Moon of the U. You know, he's got to be the guy that smashes hotel rooms and everything. You know, the Who are crazy and they're just, you know, they're complete lunatics. But I always say, if the Who were taking vitamins, running laps, you know, working out every day, Pete and Keith, they would be Deep Purple. And as it is, the Who almost were Deep Purple. You know, they're just a bunch of drunken lads from London, England, just, you know, just all they do is drink and smash things. And they're almost as good as Deep Purple or one of those bands like Jethro Tull. But I mean, Deep Purple, though, these guys don't mess around. They don't smash hotels and they don't smash things. Well, maybe Richie. But for the most part, Deep Purple, the Book of Taliesin, this album is amazing. Long before Machine Head and Deep Purple and Rock and all that, Fireball, forget all that. We're talking about the Rod Evans, Nick Simper, Deep Purple, 1968. And John Lord is as good as ever. And so is Richie. But Ian Pace on drums, man. Fucking amazing drummer. I love Ian Pace. He's the greatest drummer. You know, I can't decide who's best. Bobby Caldwell, Keith Moon, or Ian Pace. They are all so fucking good, man. Incredible. You gotta check out this album by Bubble Puppy from America. You know, the song Hot Smoke and Sassafras. With that drummer, whatever his name was, man, the fucking guy's an amazing drummer. You can tell he's ripping off everything Keith Moon does, but oh, dude. Bubble Puppy, Hot Smoke. The drumming on that song from 1968, same year as the Book of Taliesin by Deep Purple. I love Bubble Puppy, man. I fucking love that drumming. Whatever that guy's name is, Forth or Dan Forth or whatever his name, I don't know his name, but you can tell he loves Keith Moon. He wanted so bad to be like Keith Moon. And Ian Pace, he's like a tight Keith Moon. You know, he's like a more technical, tight version of Keith Moon. And Deep Purple are like a more tight, technical version of you. You know, and the thing about Deep Purple is, in the history of rock and roll, they don't get that. They do get a lot of respect, and they sold a lot of albums. But they don't get that thing like that the Who and Led Zeppelin get, and it's not fair. You know, the Rolling Stones and Mick and all them get all this notoriety, but honestly, I think Deep Purple, Richie Blackmore, John Lord, Ian Pace, these guys, man, are amazing, and they're such great musicians. They're incredible. Of course, with Ian Gillan and Roger Glover, later on, they became one of the biggest bands in the world, right there with Zeppelin. But they don't get the respect or the notoriety of Zeppelin, and I think that's wrong. I think Deep Purple, you know, of course they belong in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, all of them, but, you know, Deep Purple doesn't get that thing, man, like the Who and the Stones and Zeppelin gets, and it's not fair. You know, Richie Blackmore's way better than Pete Townsend. He's even better than Jimmy Page. On the Clark the Shark Show at 1-800-449-8255, coming to you from the golden EIB Sharkerphone. And right now I'm talking about the Book of Taliesin by Deep Purple. And to me, you guys, Deep Purple is just the greatest band. And this album, I don't think they ever made a better album. I like all three of these first Deep Purple albums, man, with Rod Evans and Nick Simper. I love them. I love Deep Purple, and they did what they had to do. They had to keep up with Zeppelin. You know, the album by 1 and 2 by Zeppelin was so heavy, so I had to get to Ian Gillan and Roger Glover. Actually, you want to know what's funny? They weren't meant to get Roger Glover. Nick Simper was never meant to be thrown out of the band. But Ian Gillan said, you know, if I come to the band, I'm bringing me bassist. And it's a good thing he did, because Roger Glover on bass is amazing. He's the greatest bass player. I feel bad for Nick Simper in history, and I feel bad for Rod Evans, everything that happened. You know, but Captain Beyond was amazing, Rod. You gotta admit, you know, I'm sure Rod Evans is in Los Angeles. He's right by me at a hospital as a doctor. You know, he quit rock and roll because Deep Purple sued him. You know, it's sad, you know, the fake Deep Purple and all that, which is kind of stupid, because when Rod Evans did that, Deep Purple weren't even around. And it wasn't Deep Purple that sued Rod Evans, it was Deep Purple's management. So that was kind of stupid. You know, they wrecked his life, they sued a guy. And at the time, you know, Deep Purple weren't even around, but they did get some pretty good ratings for this album. Hell yeah, and damn well they should, because side one is amazing. Listen, learn, read on. Ah, so listen, down there, so learn. So read on, you gotta turn the pages, read the book of TALESION and the album. Read the book of TALESION, it's awesome. I love the first track. You know, it's Killer by Ritchie Blackmore, Rod Evans, John Lord, and Ian Pace. Love it. I love Listen, Learn, Read On. And you know when you hear that song that this whole album is going to be amazing, people. And of course, Wring That Neck, famously or maybe infamously, covered by the Greenhouse Effect and yours truly on drums. Clock the Shock at 1-800-449-8255. And of course, GE always played Wring That Neck with Phil Keegan, you know, from 1985, 86, all the way, you know, till 1990. Like right after the Wilson Park gig in Torrance, we were still playing Wring That Neck because we love that song, man. Ritchie Blackmore and John Lord. We didn't have keyboards, but Phil was trying to be so much like Ritchie. And I think he always played the Les Paul. I'm not sure. It might have been a Strat. But Wring That Neck, man. Fuck, I love that song by Deep Purple, instrumental. Oh, do-do-do-do-do. It's killer, man. Love it. And Kentucky Woman, the cover with Neil Diamond, of course, who plays so many songs with the Monkees. I love Kentucky Woman, though. The version by Deep Purple is amazing. And, oh, it's so fucking killer, man. Love it. And this exhibition thing, you know, is killer. I like it. And it breaks into We Can Work It Out by the Beatles. Oh! It's Paul! I'll bloody sue Deep Purple if we don't get royalties. I'll bloody sue you. Oh, I'd watch out, Deep Purple, but you know, I hope Paul knows about this. Because if he doesn't, I'll fucking sue you. I'll get an attorney, and I'll sue every one of you in Deep Purple, even Rod Evans. He's a doctor, he's not even in the band anymore, but I'll fucking sue him. This is Paul McCartney right here. Maybe not, I think they got permission back in the day to record We Can Work It Out, me song. It should have been on Revolver or something, but... You know, Paul, I hope Deep Purple knows what they're doing, man. You guys could get sued by Paul. If he doesn't know you did We Can Work It Out. And I love Deep Purple's version of We Can Work It Out. It's killer, man. Side one's fucking amazing. The Book of Taliesin, Deep Purple. But side two, The Shield, original songs. Awesome! Oh, this song is it's so incredible, but I'm still thinking about how they did We Can Work It Out. I'll fucking sue it. But, you know, forget Paul McCartney, man. He'll fuck it. Dude, he's got to chill with all the lawsuits. But The Shield, I love this, man. Killer fucking original by Deep Purple. Blackmore, Evans, and Lord wrote The Shield. One of the best Deep Purple songs, Shield. Love it. And Anthem this is mellow. It's, you know, it's by Lord and Evans, but it's so killer. Almost sounds like Neil Diamond song, like a cover. These two songs are fucking awesome. Shield and Anthem. I love these two songs. And you can see that Rod Evans was really involved, you know, with all the originals of Deep Purple. And they fired Rod and they got that other singer because he's heavy and he can rival Robert Plant from Zeppelin, Ian Gillan. I love Ian Gillan, man. I love Roger Glover, but there's something to be said about Deep Purple with Rod Evans, man. These first three albums, I love them all. And I'm wondering, where was Deep Purple going with Rod Evans? Had they never gotten with Ian Gillan and Roger Glover? What would Deep Purple have become with Rod Evans, man? That would have been fucking killer. Would it have been as good as Captain Beyond? No. No way. No fucking way. But Deep Purple with Rod Evans and Nick Simpa on bass in the 70s. I always wonder, you guys, how fucking awesome would that have been? I mean, Deep Purple has some great albums with Ian Gillan. Even, Who Do We Think We Are? Some people don't like that album. I love it. I love all the Deep Purple. And then when Deep Purple break up with Ian Gillan, man, it's kind of a tragedy because they get to Coverdale, and there's some fucking killer songs with Coverdale. Burn is fucking killer, of course. I love it. And that new bass player who screams when they play Burn. But Deep Purple just turns into a big mess, man. And all these guys come and go, and although it's great, with Coverdale, it's never the same without Ian Gillan and Roger Glover, and the band just goes through all these changes. And eventually, even Ritchie Blackmore, the fabulous, amazing, world's greatest guitar player, he even smashes his guitar to make a statement. Ritchie Blackmore is so amazing, you guys. He's the world's greatest guitar player. But he is locked in, people, with the world's fucking greatest keyboardist, John Lord. But it's sad what happens to Deep Purple, man. They just completely discombobulate and they fall apart. And they would break up eventually. There'd just be no Deep Purple at all. Turn into things like Rainbow with Ronnie James Dio. And those bands and projects are all well and good, but man, everyone was kind of sad and bummed out. For years, people forget, there was no Deep Purple except for the fake Deep Purple with Rod Evans. And of course, Deep Purple's management sued Rod Evans, and they completely wrecked Rod Evans's life. They just destroyed the fucking guy's life, and there wasn't even a Deep Purple at the time. When Rod Evans, I think he should have found Nick Simpa. Maybe if he had Nick Simpa in the band, there'd be two guys from Deep Purple. And then maybe, the management of Deep Purple might not have sued him because there's two original Deep Purple guys in the project. But of course, it was just Rod Evans with a bunch of guys, and fuck, man, they sued the shit out of Rod Evans, and they forced him to become a doctor and work at County UCLA Hospital in Los Angeles, where I saw him, and I'm like, you're the captain, aren't you? And he's like, no, that's not me, that's someone else. And I'm like, no, I recognize you, Rod. You're the captain from Captain Beyond and Deep Purple. He's like, no, that's not me, I'm someone else. I'm just a doctor named Rod Evans. I'm not Rod Evans from Deep Purple and Captain Beyond. And I'm like, no, I know you, bro. You are the captain. You are Rod Evans, sir. He's like, nope, that's not me. I may work at a hospital in UCLA, a Harbor General Hospital, delivering babies or whatever I do. Right now, I'm looking at Clark the Shock's knee, and I'm like, oh, your knee does look bad. We can do x-ray. The bones are pretty close together. Dr. Evans is going to give you an x-ray, Clark the Shock. I'm like, sir, you are the captain. I don't care, Rod. If you don't think you're Rod Evans, here at the hospital, I'm like, Rod, I just want to tell you, Dr. Evans, that I love you, bro, and you were so amazing in Captain Beyond. I'm not even going to talk about Deep Purple. And he's like, as he's walking away from me, he's like, hey, Clark the Shock, at 1-800-449-8255 from the golden EIB sharkraphone. It's not a microphone. It's a sharkraphone. And Dr. Evans is like, don't tell anyone it's me. But I thank you for loving the captain and Deep Purple, the first 3 albums. And I'm like, it's all right, man. Don't hide the fact that you're Dr. Evans at the hospital, because I love you forever, me mate. And I love Captain Beyond. I love that fucking album, Captain Beyond, with Rod Evans and Rhino and Lee Dorman from Iron Butterfly. It's fucking greatest album ever recorded. But these first three albums by Deep Purple, and they do River Deep, Mountain High by Tina Turner. You know, I'm not really wild about their version on the Book of Talogen, but River Deep, Mountain High, and Phil Spector. Oh, this guy right here, Phil Spector, might come in the studio with a gun and just start shooting everybody because he just hates you for covering his song River Deep, Mountain High. I'm not wild about it. It's kind of killer, man. I like so many bands did a cover, like Eric Burden and the Animals. So many people. I think Nilsson. But Deep Purple's version of River Deep, Mountain High it's all right. I wouldn't say it's fucking killer, but I listen to it and I sit through it. But I mainly love Shield and Anthem. These two songs are fucking amazing. And for these two songs alone, I want you all to buy this album by Deep Purple. 1968, The Book of Talogen. Incredible album. And Listen, Learn, Read On is, it's fucking killer. Killer. The songs are so killer. Richie Blackmore, John Lord, Nick Simpa, Ian Pace, the fucking greatest drummer in the world. I love Ian Pace. Bobby Caldwell, man, it has him beat, man, just by slightly. But Ian Pace and his snare, his tight snare fills, his tight snare rolls, incredible, man. I love Ian Pace on drums. And Rod Evans on lead vocals. He's incredible. You know, is Captain Beyond better than these? In this, the Book of Talogen. I would say Captain Beyond is better. But the Book of Talogen and the other Shades of Deep Purple, and then that other album just called Deep Purple from 1969, they're all three incredible albums. With Deep Purple, with Rod Evans, who later became the captain, and a doctor at 1-800-449-8255, the Clark the Shark Show, from the golden EIB Sharkerphone. The most talent, the most wit, the fastest delivery. I'm like freeform hip-hop. I'm Clark a Shark-a-doodle-doo, baby. And I'm talking about the Book of Talogen, 1968. Just a fucking incredible album by the most incredible British proto-heavy metal band. I mean, they're heavy. This isn't really metal. This is great music. It's not psychedelic. It's just great music, man. All three Deep Purple albums with Rod Evans and Nick Simpa, they're all just great music. It's great music, you guys. 1-800-449-8255, the Clark the Shark Show. If you want to hear great music, man, you gotta buy The Book of Talogen by Deep Purple right now at iTunes, Spotify, Amazon, and support Richie Blackmore and John Lord, the estate of John Lord. God rest his soul. He died, but Ian Gillan's still here, and Roger Glover, they're still here, but they won't play with Richie. They hate him. Like Ian Gillan hates Richie. Even right now, Deep Purple is always a mess. They're always having a fight. It's always sticky. Till the point finally where Richie's like, I'll never play with any Deep Purple ever again. I'll just smash me guitar. I live with this lady. And me and this bird, we're happy. I'm so glad that Richie Blackmore finally found happiness with a bird. He doesn't need to be in this drama-filled Deep Purple. They're just always fighting, these guys. You talk about a band, like Cream with fights, or, like The Who or whoever. No band fights more than Deep Purple. There's no band with more trouble. I mean, these guys make Kiss and Gene Simmons look like a picnic, how much these guys fight. I mean, Ian Gillan, he won't talk to anybody in Deep Purple except Roger. And those two guys weren't even in the original Deep Purple. The one that did the Book of Talogen, 1968. Richie should be like, I'm going to call Paul McCartney, and maybe he's got a lawyer, and I'll sue Ian Gillan, and I'll sue Roger Glover. I'll bloody fucking sue all of them. Because I'm Paul, I'll do it for Rod Evans. He's a doctor. Uh, Man, Deep Purple has problems, you guys. It's so sad, and that could be why their legacy is so tainted, and they don't get the respect of the Who or Led Zeppelin or the Rolling Stones and Mick, or even like Jethro Tull somehow gets more word than Deep Purple. It ain't right. But I love Deep Purple, man. Heavy, hard rock before metal, really. I wouldn't say they invented metal or hard rock, but these guys would blow bands off the stage. They'd blow Cream off the stage because they were that incredible with Ritchie Blackmore. But I think Ian Pace on drums, any band with Ian Pace on the drums is going to be fucking incredible, you guys. 1-800-449-8255. Although I think Bobby Caldwell's better from the Johnny Winner group, and I think Rod Evans and Captain Beyond is better. But I don't know, man. Book of Taliesin is fucking killer. 1968. I want you all to buy this album. I want you all to support Ritchie Blackmore and all these people. John Lord, he'll be collecting royalties even in the grave. And Paul will even get a lawyer. And anyone mess with Deep Purple, I'll fucking bloody